Okay, so giving another video on this. So I'm studying for my GED, and I have, gosh, now 15 notes. So I probably won't be writing too many notes because I have to memorize it. But most of the things on there I remember and recognize, so that more of the difficult stuff I need to be able to retain it, the structures, the procedures, to higher the probability of me passing the test. But I wanted to talk about something else that was a little bit more important. And I know that wherever Frankie is and whatever happened to him, it's very terrorizing to think that how could he have managed through school with that level of abuse. And let me tell you, he didn't manage through this. This is not a Navy SEAL story. This is not like a hero story. What he went through is just unimaginable for a kid to go through. And whatever you develop in those early stages of life is going to extremely affect you as an adult. And one of the ways that I think of this is when my father died. The day that he died, and I was notified, and I remember me and Frankie talking to one another. And I hadn't heard from him since, like several years. We wrote letters to the Navy. We don't know where he went, where he disappeared. We don't know what had happened. And I remember me, Frankie, and what I thought was my mother, I think was her sister, identical triplet, were in the living room talking. And I remember Julian being there. Julian was there. You could talk to Julian about this as well. And I remember Frankie, the way that he was behaving wasn't just like, I wouldn't say careless. It was like, okay, just sell the house and get rid of the money. Okay. Like, I know Frankie's personality and how he was. You don't know how, there wasn't anyone in our family closer to him other than me and Julian. And I was older to experience Frankie. There's no one, because Frankie had no friends. You got to keep in mind, Frankie was kept in his box. He was kept in his cage all through grade school. There was not one kid that ever came out to our house to hang out with Frankie. Not ever. Frankie had one friend, and he got invited, and I talked to, there's so many stories that I could say, and he went to a CC's Pizza, and it turned out to be the guy that had molested and raped him, and it was the son of the kid that they had. And I had suspicions of who it was, which I think was one of Chris Martinez's friends from many years ago, and I can't remember, he's a DJ now as well, or he played records, and I talked to him, but he looked a lot like them. I don't know if it was the same person or not. Could have, maybe it wasn't. But Frankie didn't know anybody. So Frankie's personality and everything that he did, there wasn't anyone that was closer to Frankie. None of our family members were very close to Frankie. No one was. It was just visit here, visit there. Oh, how you doing, Frankie? They didn't live with Frankie. They weren't there. And so no one did. When we went to their houses, my aunt's houses or grandma in the apartment, the ghettos and the apartments, we would visit them, and Frankie a lot of the times didn't show up. He didn't want to go. Most of the time he didn't. But when he did, that was the only time. And there was just a number of times that this happened. So, and I was thinking of this, and when Frankie said this, it would have been like, okay, I've been conditioned to just surrender whatever it is that I have and give, just to get rid of the problem and leave me at peace. And that's exactly how he was talking. He was just like, yeah, just mom's going to sell the house. And I could tell by looking at him, people were ordering him. I could tell by looking at him that he was sort of being, and I'm, this is not going to be the best thing. Like, he was being directed by my mom's sister. And I remember this very well, because my mother, I didn't know this was my mother, this is my mom's identical twin, and I'm I'm not trying to bash the situation because they're poorly educated and they weren't there, but somebody was telling my mother's identical twin to do this shit and poison the shit. And that's why I don't believe that her. You can't go through that level of trauma and, whoever was involved, this is a lot of money that's involved. This is $125,000 equity in a house and $50,000 in a bank account that is missing. And you have a dead body, my father, that raised us, who I was very, very close to. And, when I was the one that told Frankie, and I said, take your time. Don't sell the house. Don't sign any paperwork. Don't sign anything. I said, don't sign anything. Don't. And if there's cameras in that house when it all happened, it'll tell you the whole story. You'll watch it if there's cameras. I think there was, but you'll see what I said. And I tell Frankie to calm down. Don't sign anything. Just think it over. Think it over 3 or 4 days. Just think it over 3 or 4 days. What's going on? Dad just died. He's in the funeral. He's at the morgue right now. They're going to soon transfer him, to the funeral home from the morgue. We have to get our thoughts together. What's happening here? And frankly, I remember feeling comfortable, like he wasn't being rushed to do something. And this is some of the behavior that I really strongly believe that was leading to him being this way, from all the trauma that was going on in his life. And it's very terrifying, when I think to me, it's just like, I have to seek Jesus and God, because not only have I been trained, because there's no more hope. And I don't think anybody cares. I honestly believe no one gives a shit. They're just scavenging the dead corpses and tragedies from Michael Jackson and the president. And number one is the LGBT community. They don't give a shit. They look who's stupid, who's dead. I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to apply psychology and very intelligent techniques to steal and take. That is it. They are seeking to destroy. Like the devil is to seek and destroy and steal. That's 100%. Whoever it was did this with those intentions. And it to me, because I knew Frankie's personality very well. Like whenever I would go in his room, because we used to play video games together all the time. When we would play video games, Frankie was very sharing with things. He kept to himself, but when he had like an extra, remote, he'd let me use his remote, and he worked for it, or he saved up mowing the lawn. So he was very kind, and I knew his stuff was very organized, and he had his encyclopedias inside his room that never got opened. And Frankie, he would just keep to himself. And this was strictly because of all the things that were happening in Miguel. That was why, because of that family, because whatever everyone was doing and what they were doing was to put Frankie in his cage until just milk the time until we're going to get what we want, and then we're going to see it again with Jesus Christ, and see it again, and then see it again with Christ, right? And they just keep doing that. I don't believe Frankie's in good health. I just don't believe he's in good health. Even if he did not go, even if he is in good health with God, Jesus, I hope he is. God, I hope that he's in great mental health. It is not going to change the effects and leadership about what his participant in our immediate family and who wants to victimize it. This is very bad, because me and my brother talked about what was wrong with what the situation that my mother had trouble navigating in life. When we were very young, we understood that mom needs help, and we always knew that she didn't know how to elaborate in English like the rest of us, because we're American culture, and some white guy talks fancy and shit knocking on a fucking door. We knew to kind of watch out for him. My mother was just natural instinct. It wasn't just because we were kids. We just knew it was an education thing. And so, I even if he's in good health standing, isn't going to change the fact that every decision that he's making is going to counter, very likely to counter against me instead of making a very good decision. And because he suffered all these consequences, this is why all this is going on. All these LGBT community gay members, because they're for their own breeding team. You know, I don't know how many of them grew up with straight mothers and straight fathers or straight brothers and sisters, but I grew up with a straight mother. My father was, you know, bisexual, who was having sex with my... I believe my father was gay, but just needing to have sex with my mother because he just... That's the way that it was. I don't know what the fuck was with the situation. But I know that it was to keep the family together. It seemed very robotic almost. At least with their sexual functions. So I think it's important for me to talk about because, you know, even when I'm going through these mathematics, I think about it, like, I can't even imagine Frankie trying to learn this stuff in high school and how he was being trained, because everyone knows about Michael Jackson, everyone knows about Miguel, but no one knows that there's 9 other individuals that had... This is what I saw, 9. There could be more. Everyone just knows this one person did. That's what just one person. There's 9 other fully grown men that are doing this, some relatives, and that's just what I saw and was able to map out and draw. No one knows if Frankie is in good health standing, he'd be able to tell you there's any other people. But there's 9. And I counted all this. From the age of 4 years old, this is going on. There's no way impossible, because, like, it makes me, like, whenever I think about hanging around Frankie, like, I remember being at McDonald's, and I talked about this. We used to go to McDonald's just down the street from us, but it wasn't the one on Michael Jackson Road, where Barack Obama was stalking me and harassing me. It was the other McDonald's over by Sandy Lake Road, right by the overpass of the I-35 highway, next to Red Roof Inn, which I used to stay at a lot of times because I had no money place to live. But when I went to this McDonald's, it was the old school version, and I talked about that. I saw Miguel and Diana, and it was nasty, dude. Like, I'm telling you, this transgender was ready to fight my mother and flinch, and I saw my mother like, okay. And she had real glossy eyes as she was watching Frankie stand in front of her. And she was like, oh, how you doing? Can you imagine this monster doing this? I'm like about 7 years old, about this age. And they were stalking us because they knew we went to McDonald's. We couldn't even go to a McDonald's. We couldn't even do that. Mickey will tell you this. Mickey was there. And I remember Mickey turning around and wondering what was going on, because Mickey didn't know the whole time. He didn't. Mickey was a good kid. He had no idea. He always said, oh, Mrs. Palomo, how you doing today? He was a good kid. But he didn't know. He didn't. He had no idea, especially at that age. And I say this because, you know, for Frankie to have gone through this, it is an incredible accomplishment, but it is a conditioning that you should have never experienced that. No kid should ever. I mean, that brutality for fame, for Michael Jackson, that brutality of suffering to then correlate it to Barack Obama and have a laugh about it is just unimaginable. Because not only did I see that, but this was a war that could have ended and stopped a long time ago, and they rode the roller coaster. They just jumped and they just kept on going. They didn't give a shit. And this was so much of a problem, why I was, you know, very upset, because I wasn't I was scooted away from my mother because they knew that I was the head leader to be able to defend and help my mother. So if my mother has a first grade education, if that, then guess who's in charge? And you're an immigrant, have no money, and all you're being is having your kid raped, selling yourself for sex because you have no choice, and people slapping you and beating you, have no place to go, no job. That's why. That's why Kenneth Cooper at the radio station, for me to ever allow him in my circle and think that he was out to good, he completely backstabbed me in the most guttering, unbelievable selfish greed ways you can't even imagine. He's in this conversation. He's thinks it's entertainment. My dead sister, Michaela, my biological father. I had no idea Michaela's existence, and him and David. It was David, the guy that used to live with Kenneth. My dead sister. He knew about the rapes. He knows everything of what the heck was going on with the situation, which is the brutality of this is equal of a child molester. It is equal of a child molester. To feel empathetic for something like that so you can get money and just go help your, Sarah Cooper and Kenneth, which is his parents, he doesn't give a shit. They're doing this directly, vengefully at my mother. But anyway, I'm not trying to jump to deeper topics of this, but I have to relieve this situation with, Jesus and God, because there's nothing that can be done about it. And to me, I have all the information and evidence, and I can draw all the evidence, but there's no judge, there's no justice, there's no one that cares. And everyone else has all the money in the world and the popularity of any celebrities to then use it. They went after my biological father. I know that's why he went to prison. He went to prison for drinking and driving or something that was very silly. He wasn't a criminal. And they went after him because then they can replace Michaela's father. And I remember, Michaela, I don't know if you can watch this. There was a guy that I talked about one of my teachers was pissed because my biological father had a white woman and you were created into the world, and he was pissed. And I remember him slamming the fucking mouse at the computer desk. He goes, yeah, I got a daughter. And he was mad because they're affiliating a war because when you give birth to a child, it closes and opens up new doors unimaginable. But when you have a child that's involved, especially since it's a white woman now, it means that I can connect to Michaela and I can connect to my biological father, which I had no idea. But nobody knows these stories that they're attacking me in high school about. So I think it's important for me to talk about. I'm telling you, I'm not saying this because it's me wanting to take control for the power of it, or me wanting to feed an ego. This has nothing to do with this. I'm here to help my mother and my immediate family in the story and every evidence that I can to prove what I'm saying, to help the sincere actions that my mother did for my life. Because that is an extraordinary amount of love and not let us spitting at my mother's face that Barack Obama did directly at her by his actions and by what he was doing. And I feel that our actions do matter, especially, I think, with my mother and all the dying situations that she was trying to keep a family together, and they're just mutilating it to whatever, and then her. For political notion, Michael Jackson, and who gets a celebrity status and who gets a better life, when we're scumming off the fucking grounds for the crumbs, and we're not even getting that. And it's our pain, our suffering, and we're doing nothing criminal. So, I think it's just, for Frankie, there's no way that you can to go through that type of level of abuse, especially since all these people know of everything that's going on, and all of a sudden you think that you're just going to stay in your room, you don't ever do anything, and you just go to a society. It's not healthy. It's not. It's very unhealthy, because there's a lot of people that are just naturally hermits. They just don't most people don't want to be in the public eye. It's the entertainment world, and being in the public eye is one of the most disgusting fields to work in. It is very nasty and brutal. It is not such an honorable place to go. And I think it's important because, man, I can, because I knew walking into Frankie's room. When I walk into Frankie's room, I get these, when I was, play video games, and I would talk to him and how he would behave. I knew where he kept his comic book cards. I knew where he kept his little radio and his clock, what kind of clock he had. all his items. He never touched any of the encyclopedias or put his belongings. He was very confined to a very minimal amount of things in life. Very. Like, he didn't really put a bunch of things and and um, and the encyclopedias. He had the globe inside his room. He had his trophies, and which he eventually ended up throwing away as well, if I remember correctly. And so Frankie was very confined, and you got to keep in mind, Frankie had my dad's funeral outfit inside his closet. Like the clothes that you put on when somebody's deceased, the funeral home usually ask you, bring us the clothes that you want us to put on for him, and that's what they do. It was in a, hanger. It was in a hanger with a, whatever. I don't know anything about fancy clothes, but you know how they put, suits or clothes, and they put that cover on it, and it's a zipper and a hanger, so it's all doesn't get dirty, anything. He had that in his closet the entire time since because I was 12 years old, my dad committed suicide, so it was somewhere around the age of 12 to 13 years old for me. So for about 5 or 6 years, Frankie had that in his closet, and it's very brutal, very brutal. Like, I remember Frankie having a bull's horn that we got from Mexico, and we found it, and for some reason we found a bull's horn that had been broken, its horn, and had a hole in it, like the marrow, and he always kept it in his room for many, many, many years. And it wasn't like an ego thing. It was just kind of like, oh, it's just a bone. I don't know, it's just somebody's bone. Like, I knew Frankie's personality. Frankie did not have items that was an ego trip, like even as adults or as kids, that when you had an item, it was just like, oh, I get to play video games. Yeah, I was just playing video games. It's like this type of personality, this type of, it is because of all this, the rapes and all what Miguel was doing for so many years and was going on at his schools. That is why. They're all training him and targeting him. That's all that they're doing. 100%. Remember, this is for Michael Jackson, Michael Jackson, Michael Jackson, and Michael Jackson. For the gays of Michael Jackson, for the emotions of Michael Jackson. I'm going to make an excuse, because I'm going to do all these horrible things, and then we're going to put it on This is what this entire roller coaster is the entire time. And law enforcement participated in this. They were 100% there and knew about it. They were taunting the situations at seminars at Good Elementary. For those that went to Good Elementary, remember those police officers showed up to try to give a speech? Yeah, they were putting on a show. And the teachers, it's unimaginable. It's unbelievable and unimaginable that something like this is going on. And it's just unbelievable. It's just monstrous. It's very, very, very monstrous that this is going on. I think it's important for me to talk about, because, I'm going to go back to studying and not try to worry about it, but I have to leave it to God because no one cares. To me, I've shared so much personal information on YouTube, everything and every ounce of drop of hair, freckle, microscopic grain of dust to try to reach out to somebody that cares and listens, and nobody seems to care. Nobody's really changed many circumstances, and there's no justice. There's no ruling to say, okay, you're never going to get involved, you're not going to make any decisions, and you're not going to fix this. What you do, you go to your bad place, and this place good is going to stay good. But you're not going to get involved, Sarah. You're not going to ride the roller coaster to your death, riding my sister's dead corpse, or neither is Ken Cooper, or is Kenneth, or Madison, or any of those family members, or anyone else that parasitically decides to get involved. I'm not the professional. I'm not saying that maybe they made some decisions, but I can tell you this, that I'm smart enough to understand very well enough. They put me out of that picture intentionally. There was groups at my job sites. You don't know that I had two choices. It's either you do what I tell you to do or you don't work and I'll beat your fucking ass. And I'm talking about physical, beating your ass in a fight. I don't care. If I beat your ass, I got somebody to take me out of jail. I got a lot of money and I'm going to do it because you just got to find somebody crazy enough. Because they don't care. They just go back to a normal life. They get the ego trip, but they put down. It's like somebody committing suicide and running a bomb right inside to kill, someone that's, like John Lennon. Shooting John Lennon just because he didn't had anything to do with anything and was a crazy guy that just wanted to kill him. And the guy's dead. And somebody killed him, and it was a total stranger. It was a fan. Just find somebody crazy like that to go do that again to me and my family, and that's what they did. So, I have to lean toward God, because there's no one that cares, and I have to just in order to help me move forward, I have to. And it's not going to get any better because the more the people get away with and they see that, oh, he believes in Jesus now, he's one of us, and, now he believes in Jesus because he's obeying me and not obeying Jesus, obeying them. Then every time that I then don't make a decision that they tell me to do, then it's, oh, he don't believe in Jesus anymore and I'll punish him. And that's it. Nobody cares. Like they're ruling the power of harsh punishment against me. They're not doing it with other people. They're not doing it with other people. This is very frightening in the circumstances of mental health as well when it comes to my immediate family. If my mother had twins, with Marco and his twin, with a guy that isn't Lucio, that I talked about, snatched Julian's twin many years ago, whoever this guy is, if he's connected to my uncle's wife, and they had their brother, it means Sophie and Marco are brothers and sisters. This doesn't make any sense because, look, this is how I think mental health is scary. My uncle, he had a child with Vero. Like, I'm not kidding. I met his son. I used to actually see his kid a long time ago walk back and forth all the time into the house and just kind of, being a little kid. He looks exactly like Beto. I mean, that is his kid. That is his kid. He looks exactly like him. Like, he looks like little Beto. And he was so proud because he had a son, because he, to represent him. And, I never saw anything unusual about the little kid, but I wasn't a part of his life. I just saw him just a handful of times in my life, and that was it. I was living my own life, doing my own thing. But he had that kid with Vero. Okay, so my uncle had sex with his wife to give birth to a kid. Vero got pregnant by the same guy, had sex with the same guy that my mother did. But you got to understand, my mother never knew who these people were. Like Vero's husband or baby's daddy, like the kid, the biological father of Sophie, or because they all look like Marco. Real light complected but black hair. Like real white skin with black eyes and midnight black hair. They all look like, and the facial structures, the way they're built, they look very closely alike. And I thought, this is very entangling. Like, not only that, let's just say this guy, he also had sex with Johnny and gave birth to kids. So not only my mother had sex with this guy, let me tell you, my mother, I'm not saying she had sex. She got raped. I know somebody raped her. I know it's because a guy approached her and just like, you're going to get fucked and I'm going to get you pregnant. And she just, okay, because of all the rapes. That's 100%. I know how my mother is. I'm telling you, I know. I was there, but nobody cares. Nobody wants to listen to me. So I have to leave this up to God because, There's so much as this is not getting fixed, so many problems, but I did all my efforts, you know, to hope somebody reach out. Nobody cares. There's so many problems all over the place, throwing dead bodies and making excuses and, you know, using the police officers as weapons and sending people to do harm. You know, nobody cares. You have some really bad, very bad people involved. And I'm telling you, their intentions are not good. They're there to dismantle my. Not only they did successfully do that, they did it to me and they did it directly to my mother. But it is too late. Whoever it is that thinks they're going to do something, that what ultimately is ever going to be fixed by this? There's no one that's pulling out the judge outfit and making any judgments. There seems to me, from what I can observe, is that they're trying to put our families together, not like my immediate family. I'm talking about Sarah Cooper and Ken Cooper, and justify that, and then toward circling them into my mother's immediate family. Because the decision someone makes to commit suicide or hurt someone else is gone. They're dead. They don't care. They're already old. 85 years old, 84, they don't care. It's just to give it to their offspring and see whatever celebrities jumps over there, and then it's just pain and suffering. There's no money, and there's pain and suffering unbearable to what's going on to my mother and me and the immediate family, what happened to Frankie, and they squandered it. But I think it's important for me to talk about. You know, I love my brother Frankie, I love my mother, you know, and Julian too. You know, those are the brothers I grew up with, but no one knew Frankie better than me. I'm telling you, we were hanging out all the, like, any hangout time that Frankie had, maybe an interesting topic that we shared, or we talked, it was between us. But we live in a house together, and I have reasons to believe that somebody was using electronic devices while he was there. I have reasons to believe that I think somebody was. And, but there's no way telling. I didn't even know that we could have had something like that during that time. But I don't know. But there was one more thing I want to talk about, that I hope this reaches out to somebody, at least Ginger. Ginger Johnson, which I know her real name is now Lauren. I don't know what I don't blame anything on her. I know my heart goes out to you. I hope you're staying healthy. I hope you heal from cancer. I hope whatever it is that you're going through, your life is getting better, you're staying healthy, and you're happy. But I am going to need your help and try to alleviate what had happened, because please understand that while I was having sex with you, they were shooting these electronic devices at me. And I remember very vividly being inside of you, like we were having sex, and someone shot me with an electronic device on my right butt cheek, one of my left or right butt cheeks, that makes the muscle tissue twitch. Like, to give you okay, go. Like, to give you and come inside of you. Now, we were wearing protection the whole time, but keep in mind that whoever was watching us have sex, there was somebody that was watching us have sex. Otherwise, they could have been able to shoot my physical body. And I think it's important, because whatever electronic device, they were shooting when I was having sex with you. And I know that there's not a planet in this world that if a woman finds out that she's willing, we were adults, willing to have sex, for whatever reason, whether it be money, it's consent, we were both passionate toward one another, it is not going to change that you are having someone else violate that. And women, including myself, will absolutely, because it takes the risk of her getting her pregnant. It takes the risk. You got to understand that these parasites are trying to, I think, eventually try to get me to get her pregnant. Because then it'll shut the doors on many other circumstances that were going on. You got to find someone that'll shut the doors and everything and then just put you there. That is why. Either that, or it would cause some alteration with the relationship between I had with me and Ginger. So I think it's important. Please be careful out there. I hope you're staying healthy. I have absolutely no blame for you. Even if you gave me a fake name, I know what it's like in the straight world. It is the LBGT community that are the monsters, and the teams that they're playing. It's horrendous. So I think it's important for me to talk about this. I don't have, including the girl that was even at the GED Center in Richland College, I absolutely don't have any zero animosity, anything like that. And I never did with Ginger. But I say this because I remember the relationship that I had with Ginger, that what was going on, there was a lot of crazy stuff that was going on, and they were shooting the electronic devices. So I think that's important for me to talk with you about, and I hope that I know you would feel very violated. The fact that we are having consensual sex, and you're straight, you were born straight, and all of a sudden someone is shooting an electronic device to the man you're allowing and wanting and willing to penetrate you with their penis, their dick. We're fucking, we're having sex, and we're both enjoying it. And someone is shooting an electronic device to alter that sexual behavior while you're both naked. So, I believe that I think I should talk about this. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're staying strong. I hope you have a good environment. If you have kids, I hope your kids are good. I hope God blesses your children and your family. I hope you're healthy. Ginger, I really do hope that you're healthy, including if that was Cisco's sister there. I truly believe that. I hope that you're healthy, strong. I have no animosity. I really don't. You don't understand that it is not your fault. These people that are shooting these electronic devices is 1,000% their fault. They're doing it not for psychology reasons. They're doing it to control, inseminate, rape anyone they choose, and violate you and me. Please be careful. God blessing. God blessings toward you.